The Adventures of a Revolutionary Soldier, Campaign of 1781, Joseph Plumb Martin's story. Hey there, history enthusiasts. Welcome back to another deep dive into the captivating tales of the past. Today, we're journeying back to 1781, a pivotal year in the American Revolutionary War. We're stepping into the shoes of Joseph Plumb Martin, a young soldier in the Continental Army whose first-hand accounts give us unparalleled insight into the life of a common soldier during the war. So grab your cup of tea, or something stronger, and let's unravel the adventures and hardships of Martin as he marches toward the decisive siege of Yorktown. Let's get started. So picture this. It's February 1781, and Joseph Plumb Martin is feeling the weight of endless campaigns. At just shy of 21 years old, he's already seen more war than most see in a lifetime. Frustrated and longing for a touch of normalcy, he decides to request a furlough. Thinking strategically, he asks his captain for a recommendation to go home under the guise of retrieving deserters who'd overstayed their leave. Smooth move, right? His captain, seeing the ploy but perhaps sympathizing, grants him an indefinite pass. Permit the bearer to pass into the country after some deserters and to come back. No return date specified, a soldier's dream. When Martin finally arrives home in Connecticut after his journey, which, mind you, wasn't a mere car ride, he's met with bittersweet news. His dear grandmother has passed away, and his grandfather has moved away to his son's place. But there's a silver lining. He reunites with his sister and spends time with a neighbor's daughter he's known over the years. Let's just say there's a hint of young romance in the air. For 10 glorious days, he basks in the comforts of home, the warmth of family, the joy of familiar faces, and the simple pleasures that army life has stripped away. Yet, despite having the freedom to extend his stay, no fixed return date, remember? Martin feels the tug of duty. Wrestling with his conscience, he decides to return to the front lines earlier than necessary. It's a decision steeped in honor but riddled with personal regret. As he sets off, leaving the peaceful landscapes of home behind, he's painfully aware that he might have traded precious moments of happiness for the uncertain path of a soldier. Now imagine trekking over 400 miles alone in a country torn by war. Upon reaching West Point, Martin discovers his regiment has marched south with General Lafayette to Virginia. Talk about a "you've got to be kidding me" moment. Faced with this unexpected twist, he has a choice: wait around or venture out solo to catch up. Being the determined young man he is, he chooses the latter. His journey is anything but easy. He faces fatigue from long days on the road, often covering 20 to 30 miles on foot each day. Provisions are scarce. Sometimes a handful of hardtack and a swig of water are all he has to keep going. There's the constant threat of encountering enemy patrols, loyalist sympathizers, or opportunistic bandits looking to prey on solitary travelers. As he moves from town to town, Martin witnesses the diverse states of the colonies. In some places, the war seems distant. Children play in the streets, and markets buzz with activity. In others, the scars of conflict are evident: burned buildings, fields left untended, and a palpable sense of fear. He reflects on the fragmented nature of the colonies, each region experiencing the war differently. Despite the hardships, Martin's resolve doesn't waver. He muses on the unpredictability of war and the dedication required of those who serve. His journey underscores not just the physical, but the psychological challenges faced by soldiers, emphasizing the isolation and uncertainty that come with the territory. After weeks on the road, Martin reaches Annapolis, Maryland. There, he glimpses his regiment aboard ships trapped by a British blockade at the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay. The feeling of relief is overwhelming. Can you imagine the joy of seeing comrades after such an ordeal? It's like finding an oasis in the desert. Martin learns that they've been waiting for an opportunity to slip past the British ships. The situation is tense, supplies are dwindling, and morale is fluctuating. Some soldiers are restless, eager to engage the enemy, while others are wary of the risks. The strategic implications are significant. Moving troops south by water could give the Continental forces a decisive advantage. Martin's regiment returns to West Point but doesn't stay idle for long. They're soon on the move to Peekskill and then down near King's Bridge, inching closer to British-held New York City. The proximity to the enemy heightens everyone's senses. One day, a flamboyant British horseman decides to taunt the American lines. This guy is the 18th century equivalent of a troll, riding within musket range, hurling insults and daring the Americans to take a shot. The sentries naturally oblige, but despite their best efforts, they can't hit him. Frustrated, Martin engages in a verbal spar, throwing back jibes. But things escalate quickly when a hidden British marksman takes aim and fires at Martin. The bullet whizzes past him, a close shave that could have ended his story right there. But the most personal encounter is yet to come. While on a patrol, Martin crosses paths with a British refugee commander, a man who was once his friend, even a messmate back in 1776. This former comrade had deserted to the British after being swayed by a loyalist family. In the ensuing skirmish, Martin gets entangled in a fence while trying to escape. His old friend catches up and, rather than showing mercy, strikes him with a sword, wounding his leg. The injury isn't life-threatening, but the emotional wound cuts deeper. It's a stark illustration of how the war isn't just between opposing armies, but between neighbors, friends, and even family members. Martin reflects on the complexities of loyalty and betrayal. The war isn't black and white. It's filled with shades of gray, personal conflicts, and difficult choices that haunt those involved. In August 1781, orders come down the line. The army is to march south immediately. The suddenness fuels speculation among the troops. Are they finally going to strike at New York? Is there a new target? The secrecy is intentional, a masterstroke of strategic deception by General Washington, aiming to confuse the British. The march is intense. The heat is oppressive, and the troops cover impressive distances each day, often exceeding 20 miles. They traverse through New Jersey and Pennsylvania, states that have borne the brunt of the war's demands. Along the way, Martin notes varied interactions with civilians. Some towns welcome them warmly, offering food, water, and encouragement. Others are weary, their resources strained, and show indifference or even resentment. Upon reaching Philadelphia, the scene is electrifying. The city is a hive of military activity, supplies being loaded, orders shouted, and preparations made for the next phase. For the soldiers, there's a surprising and welcome development. They receive new clothing, including much-needed shirts, overalls, and stockings. Even more astonishing, they're paid a month's wages in hard currency, silver coins. Considering they hadn't seen real money in years, relying instead on depreciated paper currency, this is a significant morale booster. It's a tangible acknowledgement of their sacrifices and a much-needed injection of goodwill. Martin feels the uplift in spirits among the men. From Philadelphia, Martin and his comrades board a fleet of small vessels to navigate down the Delaware River and into the Chesapeake Bay. This move is part of the grand strategy to trap Cornwallis's forces at Yorktown. Life aboard the schooners isn't luxurious, to say the least. The vessels are overcrowded, provisions are limited, and the threat of British naval interception is ever present. To make matters more interesting, there's the case of the liquor cask. The officers, thinking themselves clever, store a sizable supply of rum in the cabin, barricading it to prevent the enlisted men from accessing it. But soldiers being soldiers, and perhaps amateur engineers, the men find a way to tap into the cask from their side of the bulkhead. It's a cheeky rebellion against the class divide, highlighting the resourcefulness and camaraderie among the ranks. Natural challenges abound. A fierce storm hits, testing the mettle of both ships and men. At one point, a soldier is nearly lost to the sea while running an errand in a tiny punt boat amid the tempest. It's a stark reminder of the unpredictable dangers they face, not just from the enemy, but from the elements themselves. As they progress, they witness the might of the French fleet stationed in Lynnhaven Bay. The sight of the massive ships, their masts stretching like a forest against the horizon, fills them with awe and reassurance. The French naval support is a game changer, tipping the scales in favor of the Allies. Upon landing near Yorktown, there's no time to waste. They immediately begin preparations for the siege. However, they're met with shortages in provisions. Ever adaptable, the soldiers forage the surrounding areas. Martin recounts how they liberate some hogs roaming the woods to supplement their meager rations. It's survival, plain and simple, an unspoken understanding between soldiers and the land. October rolls in, and the siege of Yorktown officially begins. Martin's unit, the sappers and miners, plays a critical role in constructing the siege works. They work under the cover of darkness, laying out trenches and fortifications perilously close to British lines. One night, while marking the lines for the trenches, Martin and his comrades are ordered to hold their position in absolute silence. Suddenly, a lone figure approaches them in the darkness, a man wearing a surtout coat. Tensions rise. Is this an enemy scout? But as he speaks and interacts with them, they realize it's none other than General George Washington himself. Washington's hands-on leadership leaves a lasting impression on Martin. The general isn't content to command from afar. He's right there on the ground, assessing the situation, encouraging his men, and understanding the conditions they face. It's leadership by example, and it boosts the men's morale tremendously. Working in the sandy soil has its challenges. While easier to dig, the trenches are prone to collapsing. Additionally, the British soon catch on to their nighttime activities and unleash a barrage of artillery fire. Despite the dangers, the soldiers push on. The completion of the first parallel, a network of trenches and fortifications, is a significant milestone. It brings them within 600 yards of the enemy lines and sets the stage for the next phase of the siege. As the siege intensifies, two British-held redoubts, small fortified positions, stand in the way of completing the second parallel. Capturing them is imperative. A daring plan is hatched: simultaneous night assaults. The Americans will target redoubt number 10, while the French take on redoubt number 9. Martin's unit is at the tip of the spear. Armed with axes instead of muskets, they're tasked with cutting through the abatis, essentially a wall of felled trees with sharpened branches designed to impale attackers. Talk about a rough job. They wait anxiously for the prearranged signal. 3 shells fired into the night sky. When the moment comes, it's organized chaos. Under heavy fire, they rush forward, chopping feverishly to clear a path. Bullets whiz by, and the cries of the wounded mix with the shouts of commanders urging them onward. Amidst the frenzy, Martin witnesses harrowing scenes. A comrade next to him falls, struck by enemy fire. Grenades explode around them, small shells causing havoc and confusion. But the training and determination of the soldiers prevail. They breach the defenses, and the redoubt is captured after brutal hand-to-hand combat. The victory is a turning point. Capturing the redoubts allows the Allies to complete the second parallel, bringing their artillery even closer to the enemy. The cost is high, though. Martin reflects on the lives lost and the grim reality of war, balancing the strategic success with the personal sacrifices made. With their defenses crumbling and no hope of reinforcement, General Cornwallis realizes the futility of further resistance. On October 17th, an ironic twist, as it's also the date of the American victory at Saratoga, he requests a ceasefire to discuss terms of surrender. Martin describes the anxious wait during the negotiations. Rumors fly, but when the news becomes official, a wave of relief and jubilation washes over the camp. The surrender ceremony on October 19th is a grand spectacle. The American and French armies line the road, presenting an imposing formation. The British troops march out to the tune of "The World Turned Upside Down," a poignant acknowledgement of their defeat. General Cornwallis, citing illness, doesn't attend, a move widely viewed as a snub. Instead, General O'Hara leads the troops, attempting to surrender to the French commander, who gracefully directs him to Washington. Martin watches as the British soldiers stack their arms, a powerful symbol of their capitulation. He notes the demeanor of the defeated troops. The British are sullen, their pride wounded. The German Hessian mercenaries, on the other hand, seem less affected, perhaps viewing it as just another chapter in their soldier-for-hire careers. For Martin and his fellow soldiers, this is a momentous occasion. The victory at Yorktown effectively ends major hostilities in the war. He feels a mix of pride, relief, and a profound sense of accomplishment. Years of hardship have led to this pivotal point. In the days following the surrender, Martin observes scenes that are both heartwarming and heartbreaking. One of the most sobering sights is the plight of formerly enslaved Africans who had sought freedom by siding with the British. With the British defeat, they're left stranded, many suffering from smallpox and lacking basic necessities. Martin recounts how some plantation owners come to reclaim their property, offering soldiers rewards for capturing escapees. He participates, albeit uncomfortably, in this process. It's a stark contrast to the ideals of liberty and justice that fueled the revolution, a contradiction that isn't lost on him. As the army prepares to return north, Martin shares anecdotes from the journey. There's the near-drowning incident involving a soldier sent on a liquor run during a storm, a mix of folly and the ever-present pursuit of comfort in harsh times. There are lighter moments, too, like the supposed ghost in the Philadelphia barracks that turns out to be a wayward horse, giving everyone a good laugh. Traveling through New Jersey, Martin encounters diverse communities. One notable experience is his stay at a house where the mistress is white and her husband, a well-dressed black man, returns to serve him liquor. Coming from New England, Martin is taken aback by this interracial marriage, a reflection of the complex social dynamics and regional differences of the time. Finally, settling into winter quarters in Burlington, New Jersey, Martin feels the cumulative weight of the campaign. There's relief in having a stable place to rest, but also lingering fatigue and the inevitable restlessness of soldiers awaiting the next chapter. He reflects on the journey, the miles marched, battles fought, the friends lost and made, and how these experiences have shaped him. And so concludes the extraordinary journey of Joseph Plumb Martin during the pivotal 1781 campaign. The Siege of Yorktown wasn't just a military victory. It was the crescendo of years of sacrifice, strategy, and unyielding spirit. Through Martin's eyes, we've glimpsed the raw realities of war, the camaraderie, the conflicts, the small joys, and the profound losses. His first-hand accounts offer us a priceless window into history, reminding us that behind every grand event are individuals who lived, struggled, and persevered. As we reflect on his story, let's appreciate the countless unsung heroes whose experiences collectively forged the path to independence. Hey, thanks for sticking around and delving into this incredible slice of history with me. If Joseph Plumb Martin's journey resonated with you, smash that like button and consider subscribing for more deep dives into the fascinating stories that shaped our world. Got thoughts, questions, or favorite moments from Martin's story? Drop them in the comments below. Let's keep the conversation going. Remember, understanding our past enriches our present and guides our future. As Martin's experiences show, history is made by ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and never stop seeking the stories that connect us all. Catch you later.